So watch me transform this beauty from start to finish. If this is what you would like to see, keep on watching. So first thing first, I'm going to be cleaning up the face in order to remove dirt and oil. Then I went ahead to hydrate the skin. After hydrating, I dried it up before moving on to moisturizer. For moisturizer, I am using my Cetaphil moisturizer to moisturize her face. So after moisturizing the face, allow it to absorb into the skin before moving on to primer. For face primer, I'm going to be using my Keys Beauty Primer. What primer does is to help the makeup to last, and it gives a very good base for the makeup to sit on. So after applying the primer, you want to dry it up. Make sure every product you apply while doing your skin prep dries up before moving on to the next product. After that, I'm going to be using this gentle dove mattifying primer and apply it on the oily areas on her face. So if your skin is oily, you need a mattifying primer. It would help prevent oil from coming out. Then if you have a dry skin, you need a hydrating primer. So after applying this primer, I'm going to let it dry into the skin. After drying, I'm going to be locking it up with my Keys Beauty Spray. This would help to seal up the skin prep I did. So after that, I'm going to be using my nubanbeauty liquid highlighter to achieve a glowy base. So this part here is optional, but if you want your base to be glowing, you need to get one for yourself. So can you see the effect it's giving on the face? After that, I'm going to be moving on to my foundation. I'm going to be using this L'Oreal foundation in the shade C7. So I'm using my damp beauty sponge to blend the foundation into the skin. So I'm supposed to moisturize the lip while doing the skin prep, but it skipped my mind. So I'm using my Zaron lip balm to moisturize her lip. After that, I'm going to be locking in the foundation. This would help the foundation to be intact. After locking it in, I dried it up before moving on to cream contour. For cream contour, I'm going to be using this nubanbeauty concealer in the shade 048 to contour her face. So while contour, you need a shade that is 2 to 3 shades darker than the skin to contour the face. So after contouring the face, moving on to cream blush, I'm going to be mixing these two shades from my Blossom lip palette and apply it above her cheekbone and a little bit on the tip of her nose. After that, I went ahead to blend. So it's not a must you must apply your cream blush. If you don't have a cream blush, you can make do with your powdery blush. Both works, but most of the time I do the both, but you can do one, which is the powdery blush. So after blending, I'm going to be highlighting the face. I'm going to be using these two shades of concealer. This is Avour and Zikel concealer. Zikel concealer in the shade creamy ivory and Avour concealer in the shade A20. So I'm using the Zikel concealer on the inner corner of the face because it's lighter. Then I use the Avour concealer on the outer corner of her face. After that, I used my beauty sponge to blend the concealer on the highlighted area. So after blending the concealer, I'm going to be contouring the nose with the same shade of concealer I used in contouring the face, after which I blended it to avoid harsh lines. So next, I'm going to be setting the concealer with my Merak setting powder in the shade ginger. But before setting, I went ahead using my beauty sponge to blend the areas underneath the eyes to avoid creasing. Then I went ahead to set using my beauty sponge. So while setting, do not pack too much setting powder. Take it one step at a time and make sure your client's or anybody's eyes are upward so that you'll be able to set properly to avoid patches. So after that, I'm going to be setting the rest of her face. I'm going to be using these two shades from my Becharm powder palette to set the rest of the face. So while setting the rest of the face, make sure you use the exact powder of her skin shade to set the rest of the face. Do not use a shade lighter or darker. After that, I'm going to be applying this light shade from the same powder palette and apply it on the highlighted areas. After that, I use the same setting powder to set the nose. I was supposed to do it while setting the concealer on the face. So after setting, I'm going to be using my powder brush to blend everything together. So next, to set the cream contour, I used a shade that is 2 shades darker than her skin from the same powder palette to set the cream contour I applied earlier.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away. Cause every time I wake up, I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden, I don't look at anything the same
After
way.
that, I used my powder brush to blend everything together.
Sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay
To
out of
contour the
your
nose, I'm
way.
going to be using this
With you,
shade from the
everything's
same
such a
powder palette
mystery. I
to
never really
contour
asked
the
to be
nose. So
wrong in the
after doing
place.
your
You
cream
wanna
contour, you
know
still need
why?
to
Well,
set it with
baby,
a
I'ma
powder.
tell you
This
all
would
the
help
highs and
it
the lows. I've
set
never been the
properly
same. I
and
don't really wanna
look
hurt you, but
very
I
good
need
and
you, babe.
pronounced.
If you're sticking by my side, maybe we can
After
be
that, I went
okay.
back with my powder
Okay,
brush to
okay,
blend.
baby,
Blending is
okay,
the key.
okay.
Make sure
I
you
need you
blend.
today.
If
I
you
promise
blend
that
very
I
well,
won't
it
ever
would help you
felt this
achieve a
way.
flawless
I'm
finish
really over
look.
you. Won't
After
you just
that, I'm
please
going to
stay?
be setting
Oh,
the face. I already
I
did.
know
This would
you
help
told
the
your
this
friend
would help
you're
to reduce
not
the powder
okay.
effect and
Tell me
helps
what's
it
wrong
sit
and
properly
why
into the skin. After that, I'm
you
going to be
feel
drying
that
it.
way.
After drying it, I went ahead to bake with the same setting powder I used to set the face to bake the face. So for reverse contour, I'm going to be using this shade from the same powder palette to do her reverse contour. The reason why I did not use this setting powder is because it will be too light. That's why I used this color that is almost like a skin shade. Then after that, I used my contour brush to blend the places I contoured. So moving on to the brows, I'm going to be using my spoolie brush to brush her brows first. Then I went ahead using my brow tamer to lay the brows nicely. So next is to outline her brows. I'm going to be using my carrot gel liner and my angled brush to draw her brows, following the shape of her brows. After that, I used my spoolie brush to brush the brows again. So next is to highlight her brows. I'm going to be using my Avour concealer in the shade A20 to highlight the brows. So I'm making use of my angled brush to highlight the brows. After highlighting it, I used my blending brush to blend it immediately so that it doesn't get dry and look tacky. Then I went ahead to do the other brows following the same method. So next is to set the concealer. I'm going to be using this shade from the same powder palette to set the concealer. So next I'm going to be highlighting the top of her brows. I use the same foundation I used on her face to highlight the top of her brows. So while highlighting the top of the brows, you don't need too much product, just a little goes a long way because your brows are already looking good. So moving on to eyeshadow, before you apply your eyeshadow, you need to prep your lid. Is either use an eyeshadow base or use a concealer to prep your lid. This would help the eyeshadow to pop and last. So I used my Givenchy eyeshadow base to prime her lid, after which I used a blending brush to blend it. Then I added a little setting powder on the areas underneath her eyes to avoid fallout from the eyes. Then I went ahead using this cali chic eyeshadow palette. I took this shade, started from the outer corner, then blended it towards the inner corner of her lid. So next I'm going to be taking this shade from the same powder palette and apply it on the outer corner, then also blend it towards the inner corner of her lid. Then after that, I'm going to be doing the other side of her eyes following the same method. So after blending, I'm going to be using these shades from my powder palette to blend out the eyeshadow to avoid any demarcation. So after that, I'm going to be using this shade from this eyeshadow palette. Sorry guys, this eyeshadow palette doesn't have a name. It's been a while I got it, so I'm just gonna use it, to blend the crease properly. Then I went ahead using another blending brush to blend everything to avoid any demarcation. So next I'm going to be using that brush I used in applying the eyeshadow base. I went back using that brush to blend the inner corner of her lid so that when I apply my eyeshadow it will look neat and smooth in the eyes. So after that I'm going to be using this shade from my Blossom eyeshadow palette and apply it on the inner corner of her lid. Then I use that brush I used in applying that eyeshadow on the crease to blend. Then I went ahead using that shade to blend. So I went back with that brown eyeshadow from my Cali Chic eyeshadow palette. I went back using it to apply on the outer corner of her lid. So after blending, next is to line her upper and lower lash line. I'm going to be using my Carrot gel liner, the black shade, and my angled brush to line her upper and lower lash line. After that, I'm going to be prepping her natural lashes with my Zaron mascara in order to give it volume. Then next, I'm going to be wearing her these lashes from Chi Lashes. After wearing her the lashes, I went ahead to press it together with her natural lashes. So moving on to powdery blush, I'm going to be taking this shade from my Tara blush palette and apply it above her cheekbone and a little bit on the tip of her nose. So next I'm going to be using that contour brush. I went ahead using that contour brush to contour again. So this time I'm going to be blending everything to avoid harsh lines. After that I'm going to be applying some lighter shade of powder on the areas I highlighted. So moving on to the lip, I'm going to be using this lip pencil to outline her lip. After that, I'm going to be blending it with my lip blending brush. So next, I'm going to be applying this nubanbeauty lip stain in the middle just to brighten up the lip. After that, I'm going to be blending it together. So I went back using that lip liner to line again. Then I applied some lip gloss on the lip before going ahead with my fluffy brush to remove the excess powder on her face. So I went back using that nose contour brush to contour the nose again. If you're doing your makeup and you notice that something is not properly done, you just need to go back to do it again. After that, I went ahead to blend to avoid harsh lines. So I'm going to be using my fluffy brush to dust off the excess powder underneath the eyes and blend properly. Then I went ahead using my powder brush to blend everything together. So I went back applying more powdery blush above her cheekbone because I really want it to pop. After that, I'm going to be applying this mascara, the same Zaron mascara, on her lower lashes. Then I went ahead using my spoolie brush to brush her brows again. So next I'm going to be setting the face. Make sure you cover your eyeshadow so that the setting spray doesn't touch the eyeshadow, because if it does it might ruin it. So make sure you cover it and set. So after setting, I'm going to be drying it up. Make sure you dry everything into the skin. Let it dry properly into the skin. So after that, I'm going to be using my Younger Beauty highlighter and apply it on the places I want the highlights to pop. So after that, I'm going to be using my Mismetic cheek glaze and apply it on the places I want the face to glow. Like this would help the face to glow. So after that, I'm going to be setting the face for the last time with my Kiss Beauty Fix Spray. Then after setting, I dried it up immediately. After that, I'm going to be sealing it up with my So Pro Silly Spray. This would also help the makeup to last properly, like last very well. Then after sealing it up, I'm going to allow it to absorb into the skin. After that, I'm going to be applying some pigment on her tear dots, just a little, because I really want that face to pop. Yeah, and guys, we are almost done. And this is the finished look, guys. I hope you all enjoyed watching my video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.